Stoicism emerged in a world of political upheaval, social inequality, and personal uncertainty. Conditions not unlike those we face today. Founded in Athens around 300 BC by Zeno, this philosophical tradition flourished for over 5 centuries, evolving through the Roman Empire and producing some of history's most profound thinkers. Seneca, a statesman who advised emperors; Epictetus, a former slave who became one of antiquity's greatest teachers; and Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who ruled Rome while writing personal meditations, never intended for publication. What makes Stoicism uniquely valuable today is its practicality, rather than abstract theorizing. The Stoics developed concrete techniques for daily living, psychological exercises that transform how we perceive and respond to life's challenges. Central to these practices was a use of self-dialogue, the internal conversations we have with ourselves that shape our emotional responses and subsequent actions. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics intuited. Our self-talk profoundly influences our experiences. When we change the way we speak to ourselves, we change how we interpret events, which changes how we feel and act. The 9 affirmations presented in this document are not merely positive thinking, but deeply reasoned philosophical positions that, when internalized, reshape our relationship with ourselves and our world. Before exploring each affirmation, it's worth understanding the ultimate goal of Stoic practice. The Stoics did not seek mere tranquility or absence of disturbance, though these were welcome byproducts. Their goal was eudaimonia, human flourishing characterized by excellence of character and rationality in action. They believed this flourishing comes from living in accordance with nature, which they understood as living virtuously according to reason. These daily affirmations serve as training exercises toward that goal, practical tools for developing wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation in everyday life. By returning to these principles each day, especially in moments of challenge, we gradually cultivate the Stoic disposition, clear-eyed, resilient, purposeful, and at peace regardless of external circumstances. Now, let us examine each affirmation in greater depth, exploring its philosophical nuances, psychological benefits, and practical applications across various domains of life. Affirmation 1. I cannot control external events, only my response to them. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Epictetus Discourses. Philosophical depth. The dichotomy of control represents the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, so fundamental that Epictetus opens his Enchiridion handbook with it. This principle makes a crucial distinction between what the Stoics called the internal and the external. Internal things, those within our control, include our judgments and interpretations, our intentions and motivations, our desires and aversions, our voluntary actions. External things, those not fully within our control, include our body and its health, material possessions and wealth, other people's opinions and actions, social and political circumstances, reputation and status, natural events and phenomena. The Stoics recognized a third category that later philosophers have called preferred indifference, external things like health, wealth, and reputation that, while not essential for virtue, are naturally preferred when available. The wise person pursues these with reservation, ready to accept their absence when circumstances dictate. This nuanced understanding helps resolve the apparent contradiction in Stoic attitudes toward external goods. The Stoics weren't indifferent to outcomes, but recognized that attaching our happiness to things beyond our control makes us perpetually vulnerable to fortune's reversals. Psychological benefits. Modern psychological research supports this Stoic insight through concepts like locus of control. People with an internal locus of control, believing they can influence their responses to events, show greater resilience than those with an external locus, believing they are primarily controlled by outside forces. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Pioneered by Aaron Beck and influenced by Stoicism, CBT distinguishes between situations, which we often cannot control, and our interpretations of them, which we can. Post-traumatic growth. Studies show that people who focus on aspects within their control during traumatic experiences often develop greater psychological strength afterward. By internalizing this affirmation, we develop greater emotional stability and reduce what psychologists call emotional reactivity, the tendency to have our inner state determined by external triggers. Practical applications across life domains. In professional life, when facing workplace challenges like difficult colleagues, unreasonable deadlines, or economic uncertainty, distinguish between what you can and cannot control. You cannot control market conditions, your boss's personality, or organizational politics, but you can control how you prepare for meetings, how you communicate your needs and boundaries, your professional development and skill acquisition, your response to criticism, whether you seek other opportunities. Rather than complaining about uncontrollable aspects of your work environment, channel your energy toward these controllable factors. In relationships often cause suffering precisely because we try to control what we cannot, other people's feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. Practice accepting that you cannot control whether someone likes you, how others interpret your actions, another person's emotional baggage, someone else's commitment level. You can control how honestly you communicate, the respect and kindness you show, your boundaries and standards, your willingness to be vulnerable, when to invest or divest from a relationship. By focusing on these controllables, you maintain your dignity and peace regardless of how others behave. In health challenges, health issues powerfully illustrate the limits of control. You cannot always control genetic predispositions, accidents, and injuries. Many aspects of aging, the effectiveness of treatments. You can control preventive health measures, how you follow medical advice, your attitude toward limitations, the meaning you assign to your condition, how you communicate with healthcare providers. Even with serious health challenges, focusing on these aspects of control preserves your agency and dignity. Advanced practice, the reserve clause. The Stoics refined the dichotomy of control through what they called the reserve clause, Epictetus, the mental addition of fate permitting to our plans and intentions. When Seneca wrote, "I will sail across the ocean if nothing prevents it," he demonstrated this psychological technique. The reserve clause isn't pessimism, but realistic acknowledgement of our place in a complex world where many factors affect outcomes. By mentally adding this qualification to your intentions, you maintain both purposeful action and emotional equilibrium when unexpected obstacles arise. Practice formulating your plans with the reserve clause. I will complete this project excellently, fate permitting, or I intend to build this relationship if circumstances allow. This subtle shift preserves your initiative while preparing you psychologically for potential setbacks. Daily implementation strategies. Morning practice. Begin each day by mentally categorizing upcoming challenges into controllables and uncontrollables. For each situation, identify specifically what aspects lie within your power and which do not. Commit to focusing your energy exclusively on the former. Throughout the day, carry a small token in your pocket or wear a specific item, like a ring or bracelet. When you touch it throughout the day, use it as a reminder to ask, is what I'm currently worried about within my control? If not, redirect your attention to your response. Evening reflection. Before sleep, review situations where you successfully distinguished between controllables and uncontrollables. Also note instances where you wasted energy trying to control the uncontrollable, using these not for self-criticism, but as valuable feedback for improvement. By consistently practicing this fundamental affirmation, you gradually develop what the Stoics prized above all else, the capacity to maintain inner freedom regardless of external circumstances. This is not merely a coping mechanism, but the foundation of true agency in a world of flux and uncertainty. Affirmation 2. This moment is all I ever have. Every moment think steadily as a Roman and a man to do what thou hast in hand with perfect and simple dignity, and feeling of affection and freedom and justice, and to give thyself relief from all other thoughts. And thou wilt give thyself relief, if thou doest every act of thy life as if it were the last. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Philosophical depth. The Stoic emphasis on present moment awareness stems from their understanding of time itself. They recognize three essential truths about temporal experience. The past no longer exists except as impressions in our minds, which we can reinterpret but cannot change. The future does not yet exist and remains fundamentally uncertain despite our planning. Only the present moment exists in reality as the sole point where we can exercise our agency. This view parallels modern philosophical concepts of presentism, but goes beyond metaphysical claims to offer practical wisdom. The Stoics taught that psychological suffering largely comes from dwelling in non-existent time frames, regretting the unchangeable past, or anxiously anticipating futures that may never materialize. Marcus Aurelius elaborated on this principle when he wrote, "Do not disturb yourself by picturing your life as a whole. Meet the challenges of the present, not those of the past or future." This focusing of attention creates what psychologists now call flow states, periods of complete engagement that represent optimal human experience. The Stoic practice of present moment awareness differs from hedonistic living in the moment in its ethical dimension. The present isn't valued merely for pleasure, but as the only opportunity to exercise virtue, to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Each moment offers a choice point for embodying excellence or falling short of our potential. Psychological benefits. Contemporary psychological research confirms the benefits of present moment awareness. Reduced anxiety. Studies show that mindfulness practices that anchor attention in the present significantly reduce symptoms of anxiety disorders by interrupting rumination and catastrophizing. Enhanced performance. Research on peak performance in athletics, arts, and professional fields consistently identifies present moment focus as a key factor in achieving optimal results. Increased life satisfaction. People who regularly practice present moment awareness report greater overall life satisfaction and subjective well-being compared to those habitually focused on past or future. Improved relationships. Present moment attention enhances interpersonal connections by improving listening skills and emotional attunement to others. The Stoic emphasis on present moment awareness anticipated these findings by millennia, offering practical techniques for cultivating this beneficial mental state. Practical applications across life domains. In professional life, work environments often pull our attention away from the present through deadline pressures, career anxieties, or workplace politics. Practice present moment focus by single tasking rather than multitasking, giving complete attention to one project at a time, breaking large projects into discrete steps that can be fully engaged with individually, implementing time boxing techniques where you commit to focused work for defined periods, creating transition rituals between tasks to reset your attention. When anxiety about outcomes arises, remind yourself, I cannot control the future, but I can give my best to this present task. This shifts focus from results external to process internal. In personal relationships, our connections with others suffer when we're mentally absent, thinking about work while with family, checking phones during conversations, or worrying about future scenarios instead of engaging with the person before us. Practice relationship presence by creating device-free zones and times for important relationships, practicing active listening, restating what you've heard before responding, noticing physical sensations during interactions, feet on ground, breathing, posture, engaging fully with simple shared activities rather than always seeking novel stimulation. The quality of attention you bring to relationships often matters more than the quantity of time invested. In personal development, growth occurs not through planning or reflection alone, but through present engagement with challenging activities. Apply present moment awareness to learning by focusing completely on foundational skills rather than rushing to advanced techniques. Embracing the discomfort of practice rather than anxiously anticipating future mastery, giving full attention to feedback in the moment rather than defending past efforts, finding joy in the process of improvement rather than fixating on end goals. The Stoics would remind us that the journey of growth itself constitutes the good life, not some future state of achievement. Advanced practice, contemplation of impermanence. The Stoics deepened present moment awareness through regular contemplation of impermanence. By recognizing the transient nature of all things, possessions, relationships, the body itself. They heightened appreciation for what exists now rather than taking it for granted. Marcus Aurelius practiced this when he wrote, "Observe how all things are continually being born of change. Nothing is so much to be feared as fear itself." This contemplation isn't morbid, but liberating. It strips away the complacency that comes from assuming unlimited time. Practice regularly asking, might this be the last time I experience this particular moment? If I knew this was my final day, would I give my attention differently? What aspect of this present experience might I be overlooking? This practice transforms ordinary experiences into sources of wonder and appreciation rather than background noise to be ignored. Daily implementation strategies. Morning anchor practice. Begin each day with 3 to 5 minutes of sensory anchoring, systematically noticing physical sensations, sounds, visual details, and your breath. This establishes a baseline of present awareness that you can return to throughout the day. Transitional moments. Use natural transitions, entering new spaces, beginning new activities, as triggers for present moment awareness. Before entering a meeting room, your home, or a social gathering, take 3 conscious breaths and silently affirm, "This moment is all I ever have." Spot practice. Set random reminders throughout your day. When they occur, pause briefly to notice. 3 things you can see, 2 things you can hear, 1 physical sensation. This quick practice interrupts autopilot and reestablishes present awareness. Evening integration. Before sleep, identify 3 moments from the day when you were fully present and 3 when you were mentally elsewhere. Notice patterns without judgment, using this awareness to refine your practice. By consistently returning to present moment awareness, you develop what the Stoics considered a cornerstone of wisdom: the ability to fully possess and inhabit each moment rather than losing life to regret or anticipation. Affirmation 3. I will embrace discomfort as an opportunity for growth. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. Philosophical depth. The Stoic approach to discomfort represents one of their most countercultural teachings. In a world increasingly oriented toward comfort and convenience, the Stoics recognized that growth and virtue emerge primarily through confronting challenges rather than avoiding them. This principle stems from their understanding of nature itself. The Stoics observed that strength, whether physical, mental, or moral, develops only through resistance. Just as muscles grow through the stress of exercise, character develops through facing difficulties with the right attitude. The Stoics distinguished between different types of discomfort: natural discomfort, pain, illness, hunger, thirst, and physical exertion. These are unavoidable aspects of embodied existence. Social discomfort, rejection, criticism, conflict, and status challenges. These arise from our nature as social beings. Self-imposed discomfort, voluntary hardship undertaken specifically for growth. This includes practices like fasting, cold exposure, or simplicity of living. Moral discomfort, the internal resistance felt when acting against our values or when moral action requires personal sacrifice. The wise person, according to the Stoics, learns to respond appropriately to each type, accepting natural discomfort without complaint, navigating social discomfort with dignity, periodically embracing self-imposed discomfort for training, and using moral discomfort as a guide toward virtue. Crucially, the Stoics did not glorify suffering for its own sake. They distinguished between discomfort that serves growth to be embraced and pointless hardship to be reasonably avoided. Their goal was not self-punishment, but self-mastery through progressive challenge. Psychological benefits. Modern psychological research confirms the Stoic insight that appropriate exposure to difficulty builds resilience. Post-traumatic growth. Studies show that many people develop increased psychological strength, deeper relationships, and greater appreciation for life after successfully navigating difficult experiences. Anti-fragility, a concept developed by philosopher Nassim Taleb, describing systems that actually benefit from stressors, disorder, and volatility, becoming stronger rather than merely surviving challenges. Hormesis, the biological phenomenon where exposure to low doses of stressors like exercise, temperature extremes, or fasting triggers beneficial adaptations that improve overall functioning. Comfort addiction. Research indicates that excessive comfort seeking can lead to decreased tolerance for normal life difficulties, contributing to anxiety and depression when inevitable challenges arise. By embracing appropriate discomfort, we expand our capacity to function effectively across a wider range of conditions, developing what psychologists call an expanded window of tolerance. Practical applications across life domains. In physical health, modern fitness science confirms the Stoic principle that physical strength requires progressive challenge. Apply this wisdom by regularly exposing yourself to physical exertion that exceeds your comfort zone, incorporating hormetic practices like intermittent fasting, temperature variation, sauna/cold exposure, or altitude training when appropriate, viewing physical discomfort during exercise as the necessary stimulus for adaptation rather than something to be avoided, practicing occasional voluntary simplicity in diet and comfort to maintain adaptability. Remember that the goal isn't suffering itself, but the capabilities and resilience that appropriate challenge develops. In career development, professional growth similarly requires embracing discomfort. Volunteer for challenging projects that stretch your current capabilities. Seek honest feedback about your weaknesses rather than avoiding criticism. Practice difficult conversations rather than postponing them. Regularly expose yourself to new technologies, methodologies, and perspectives. When facing career challenges, remind yourself, this difficulty is not preventing my success. It is part of my success. This reframing transforms obstacles from barriers to stepping stones. In emotional development, emotional strength likewise develops through wisely confronting rather than avoiding uncomfortable feelings. Practice gradually exposing yourself to situations that trigger manageable anxiety. When experiencing difficult emotions, practice turning toward them with curiosity rather than avoidance. Distinguish between productive emotional discomfort, which leads to growth, and unproductive rumination. Use journaling to explore uncomfortable emotions rather than suppressing them. The Stoics would remind us that emotional strength comes not from avoiding difficult feelings, but from maintaining virtue while experiencing them. Advanced practice. Voluntary discomfort training. The Stoics systematically practiced voluntary hardship as psychological preparation. Seneca, despite his wealth, regularly practiced periods of voluntary poverty. Epictetus advised his students to occasionally embrace cold, hunger, and other physical discomforts as training. Modern versions of this practice might include comfort challenges. Periodically abstain from modern conveniences, perhaps a day without smartphones, social media, or other habitual comforts. Notice both the initial discomfort and the adaptation that follows. Fasting practices. Experiment with intermittent fasting or simplified eating. This builds the psychological muscle of functioning well despite hunger and breaks the expectation of constant satisfaction. Simplicity retreats. Occasionally live with minimal possessions and comforts for defined periods. This reduces dependence on external things for well-being. Physical challenges. Undertake demanding physical activities like hiking, cold water swimming, or endurance events. These build confidence in your ability to persist through discomfort. The key insight of these practices isn't masochism, but preparation. By voluntarily embracing manageable discomforts, you develop the mental resources to handle involuntary hardships with greater equanimity. Daily implementation strategies. Morning preparation. Each morning, identify at least one constructive discomfort you will willingly embrace that day. Perhaps a difficult conversation, a challenging workout, or delaying gratification in some area. Frame this as deliberate training rather than unwelcome obligation. Discomfort reflection. When encountering unexpected difficulties, pause to ask, how might this challenge be serving my growth? Look specifically for the strength, skill, or virtue this situation might be developing. Progressive challenge. Systematically track areas where you're expanding your comfort zone. Create a discomfort curriculum with progressively greater challenges matched to your current capabilities. Evening integration. Before sleep, reflect on how you responded to discomfort throughout the day. Acknowledge both successes, Will you engage productively with challenges and opportunities? Will you avoid growth through excessive comfort seeking? By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics considered essential for human excellence: the ability to maintain virtue and purpose regardless of external conditions, finding value even in life's difficulties. Affirmation 4. I will act with virtue, regardless of others' actions. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Philosophical depth. The Stoic commitment to virtue represents the heart of their ethical system. Unlike consequentialist approaches that judge actions by their outcomes or social approval, Stoic ethics centers on the quality of moral character expressed through action. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues, drawing from the Socratic tradition. Wisdom furnishes the knowledge of what is good, bad, and indifferent. The ability to make excellent judgments in complex situations. Courage, Andrea, not merely physical bravery, but the moral fortitude to stand by principles in the face of fear, pressure, or temptation. Justice, dikaiosyne, treating others with fairness, honesty, and respect, fulfilling one's duties and obligations to the human community. Temperance, sophosyne, moderation and self-control, the ability to govern appetites and desires according to reason. These virtues are not separate qualities but aspects of a unified excellence of character. The truly wise person is also courageous, just, and temperate. These qualities mutually reinforce each other. Crucially, the Stoics maintain that virtue is both necessary and sufficient for eudaimonia, flourishing. External goods like health, wealth, and reputation, while naturally preferred, are ultimately indifference regarding moral worth and happiness. This radical position sets Stoicism apart from philosophical systems that make happiness dependent on external circumstances. The Stoic emphasis on independent moral agency follows from this principle. If virtue alone determines our flourishing, then others' behavior, whether supportive or antagonistic, cannot ultimately harm us unless we allow it to compromise our own virtue. Psychological benefits. Modern psychological research confirms several benefits of moral autonomy. Integrity-based self-esteem. Studies show that self-esteem based on adherence to personal values proves more stable than that derived from social approval or achievement. Reduced social anxiety. People who maintain internal ethical standards experience less anxiety about others' judgments and greater social confidence. Moral courage. Research on moral exemplars indicates that those who maintain ethical standards despite social pressure exhibit greater overall psychological well-being. Value congruence. Psychological studies consistently find that alignment between values and actions correlates strongly with life satisfaction and mental health. By maintaining virtue, regardless of others' behavior, we establish an internal stability that transcends social fluctuations and external circumstances. Practical applications across life domains. In professional settings, workplace environments often pressure ethical compromises through competition, conformity, or expediency. Practice virtue-centered decision-making by establishing clear personal ethical boundaries before facing difficult situations. Making decisions based on principles rather than personalities or politics. Speaking truthfully even when silence would be more convenient. Taking responsibility for mistakes rather than deflecting blame. Giving proper credit to others' contributions regardless of political advantage. When facing ethical pressure, remind yourself, my character is in my control. No one can compromise it without my consent. In relationships, interpersonal dynamics frequently test our commitment to virtue. Practice responding to unkindness with fairness rather than retaliation. Maintain honesty even when deception would avoid conflict. Honor commitments regardless of whether others fulfill theirs. Set boundaries based on values rather than emotions. Resist the temptation to manipulate others, even when they attempt to manipulate you. The Stoic relationship principle might be summarized as, be the person you admire rather than mirroring the behavior you receive. In civic participation, public discourse often devolves into partisan hostility, presenting special challenges for virtue. Evaluate policies based on principles rather than party affiliation. represent opposing views fairly rather than creating strawman arguments. Acknowledge valid points from those you disagree with. Maintain respectful communication, even when others resort to attacks. Choose truth over tribal belonging. The Stoics would remind us that civic virtue often requires standing apart from crowd psychology to maintain ethical principles. Advanced practice. The virtuous response to injustice. Perhaps the greatest test of moral independence comes when we face genuine injustice. The Stoics developed sophisticated approaches to maintaining virtue even when wronged. Perspective taking. Before responding to perceived injustice, consider the other person's perspective. As Marcus Aurelius advised, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. Harm distinction. Distinguish between genuine harm to your character and preferred indifference, reputation, possessions, convenience. The Stoics maintained that only the former constitutes true injury. Justice without anger. Practice separating the pursuit of justice from the emotion of anger. As Seneca explored extensively, one can firmly oppose wrongdoing without surrendering reason to reactive emotion. Opportunity recognition. View mistreatment as an opportunity to practice particular virtues. Patience with the annoying. Courage against intimidation. Magnanimity toward the petty. When wronged, ask yourself, how would the person I aspire to be respond to this situation? Then embody that response regardless of emotional impulses or social expectations. Daily implementation strategies. Morning virtue preparation. Begin each day by identifying specific virtues you anticipate needing. Perhaps patience during a difficult meeting, courage for an important conversation, or temperance at a social event. Mentally rehearse embodying these qualities regardless of how others behave. Virtue journaling. Maintain a record of situations where you successfully maintained virtue despite challenging circumstances. Also note instances where you compromised your principles, examining without judgment what led to these lapses. Value clarification. Periodically review and refine your core ethical principles. Create clear statements of your values in key life domains that can serve as decision guides when facing complex situations. Evening character review. Before sleep, ask yourself, did I compromise my character today for external advantage or social approval? If so, acknowledge this without self-condemnation and recommit to virtue-centered choices tomorrow. By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics called moral autonomy, the capacity to maintain ethical excellence regardless of external influences or social pressure. Affirmation 5. I am part of something larger than myself. Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and observe how all things have reference to one perception, the perception of this one living being. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Philosophical depth. The Stoic conception of interconnection operates on multiple levels, from the immediate human community to the cosmic order itself. This principle emerges from their physics, as well as their ethics. The Stoics understood the cosmos as a living, rational system governed by logos, the divine reason that permeates and orders all things. Unlike the atomistic view that reality consists of separate particles randomly colliding, the Stoics saw the universe as an integrated organism where each part contributes to the whole. This cosmic perspective informed their social philosophy. Humans, possessing the divine spark of reason, naturally belong to two communities: the local community of family, friends, and fellow citizens with whom we share immediate social bonds; the cosmic community, cosmopolis, of all rational beings across space and time, united by our shared capacity for reason and virtue. The wise person, according to the Stoics, maintains appropriate concern for both communities, fulfilling social duties while remembering that all humans, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, or status, belong to the universal human family. This perspective transcends mere altruism. The Stoics weren't advocating sacrifice of self-interest for others, but recognizing that our true interests include the well-being of the larger whole to which we belong. As Marcus Aurelius expressed it, what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Importantly, This interconnection doesn't erase individuality, but contextualizes it. The Stoic sage maintains personal agency, while recognizing that this agency operates within and contributes to larger systems that give it meaning. Psychological benefits. Contemporary research confirms numerous benefits of experiencing interconnection. Expanded identity. Studies show that people who identify with groups larger than themselves, whether communities, causes, or humanity as a whole, report greater purpose and meaning in life. Reduced existential anxiety. Research indicates that connecting to something transcending individual existence helps alleviate death anxiety and existential isolation. Prosocial motivation. People who perceive interconnection demonstrate greater helping behavior, environmental stewardship, and civic participation. Crisis resilience. Communities where members maintain strong interconnection show better outcomes during disasters and collective challenges. By cultivating awareness of our place within larger systems, we develop what psychologists call transcendent identity, a self-concept that includes but extends beyond personal concerns. Practical applications across life domains. In environmental stewardship, apply the principle of interconnection to environmental consciousness by considering the downstream effects of consumption choices rather than just immediate convenience. Recognizing that seemingly distant environmental impacts eventually affect all communities. Finding meaning in sustainable practices as expressions of cosmic citizenship. Viewing environmental responsibility as enlightened self-interest rather than sacrifice. The Stoic would remind us that we are temporary stewards of natural resources that belong to the human and non-human community across generations. In civic engagement, bring the perspective of interconnection to citizenship by evaluating policies based on their effects on the whole community rather than narrow self-interest. Recognizing legitimate needs across diverse groups even when their experiences differ from yours. Participating in public life as an expression of human nature rather than mere obligation. Viewing taxes and civic duties as appropriate contributions to systems that make individual flourishing possible. The Stoics would remind us that humans are political animals by nature, designed to live in cooperative communities rather than isolation. In intergenerational thinking, extend your sense of community across time by considering how current decisions will affect future generations, learning from historical wisdom rather than dismissing past insights, creating legacy projects that benefit those who come after you, viewing yourself as one link in a human chain rather than an isolated individual. The Stoics would remind us that we inherit the benefits of previous generations' efforts and have corresponding obligations to those who follow us. Advanced practice. Expanding circles of concern. The Stoics advocated systematically expanding our sense of connection through specific contemplative practices. Concentric circles meditation. Visualize expanding circles of relationship, from self to family to friends to community to humanity to all rational beings. Reflect on your obligations and connections to each circle. View from above. Imagine observing Earth from increasing heights, seeing first your immediate surroundings, then your city, region, continent, and finally the planet as a whole. Notice how personal concerns appear in proper perspective within this wider view. Time transcendence. Contemplate the vast time span of human history and future, placing your brief life within this expanded temporal perspective. Consider how your actions might echo beyond your lifetime. Common humanity reflection. Regularly reflect on the fundamental similarities between yourself and those who seem most different or distant, our shared needs, vulnerabilities, and capacity for virtue. These practices gradually transform abstract philosophical concepts into lived experience, expanding identity beyond the confines of individual ego. Daily implementation strategies. Morning connection practice. Begin each day by acknowledging your place within larger systems, perhaps expressing gratitude for the countless others whose efforts make your daily life possible, from those who grow your food to those who maintain infrastructure. Interdependence awareness. Throughout the day, periodically pause to notice the web of relationships that support even simple activities. Consider how many hands, minds, and natural processes contribute to ordinary objects and experiences. Service orientation. Incorporate regular service into your routine, not as obligation, but as expression of your nature as a community being. Even small contributions reinforce your connection to something larger than yourself. Evening reflection. Before sleep, review ways you contributed to larger wholes today and ways you benefited from belonging to them. Consider how tomorrow might provide opportunities to strengthen these connections. By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics considered essential wisdom, the ability to maintain proper perspective, seeing yourself simultaneously as a distinct individual and an integral part of greater wholes. Affirmation 6. I will find opportunity in every obstacle. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Philosophical depth. The Stoic approach to obstacles represents one of their most ingenious psychological innovations. Rather than merely enduring difficulties or overcoming them, the Stoics taught that obstacles themselves contain the seeds of advantage when perceived correctly. This principle emerges from their understanding of nature as a dynamic, purposeful system. Just as resistance strengthens a tree growing in windy conditions, challenges strengthen human character and capacity when met with the right attitude. The Greek term the Stoics used for this principle was aphormai, opportunities or starting points that emerge from apparent barriers. This concept involves three key insights. Perception transformation. Every situation contains multiple potential interpretations. By choosing to see obstacles as opportunities, we change their psychological impact and unlock creative responses. Constraint creativity. Limitations often spark innovation that abundance never would. The boundaries imposed by obstacles can focus attention and generate novel solutions. Character development. Even when external success proves impossible, obstacles always offer the opportunity to exercise virtue, patience, courage, resilience, or wisdom, thus achieving the internal success that the Stoics valued most highly. This approach differs from simplistic positive thinking. The Stoics didn't deny the reality of difficulties or suggest merely looking on the bright side. Instead, they advocated active engagement with obstacles, transforming them through practical wisdom and creative response. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This captures the dual aspect of Stoic obstacle management: vigorous engagement with what can be changed and philosophical acceptance of what cannot. Psychological benefits. Modern psychological research confirms the power of this perspective through several related concepts. Post-traumatic growth. Studies show that many people develop new strengths, deeper relationships, and greater appreciation for life after successfully navigating serious adversity. Cognitive reappraisal. Research identifies the ability to reinterpret challenging situations as a key factor in emotional resilience and reduced stress response. Stress inoculation. Exposure to manageable stressors, when processed effectively, increases capacity to handle future challenges, a phenomenon psychologists call toughening. Benefit finding. The practice of identifying positive aspects or outcomes of difficult situations correlates with both psychological well-being and improved physical health outcomes. By developing the habit of finding opportunity in obstacles, we cultivate what psychologists now call psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining purpose and direction. Practical applications across life domains. In career challenges, apply the opportunity and obstacle principle to professional setbacks by viewing job loss as an opening to reassess career direction and pursue more fulfilling work. Using rejection as information about areas for skill development or approach refinement. Treating difficult colleagues or bosses as teachers of patience, diplomacy, and boundary setting. Seeing limited resources as invitations to innovation and efficiency. When facing career obstacles, ask, how might this limitation be showing me a better way forward than I would have found without it? In health difficulties, transform your relationship with health challenges by using recovery periods as opportunities for neglected, reflective practices or learning. Viewing chronic conditions as teachers of patience, adaptability, and present moment focus. Treating physical limitations as invitations to develop alternative capacities. using health setbacks to reprioritize values and focus on what truly matters. The Stoics would remind us that even when health cannot be restored, our response to limitation remains within our control. In relationship conflicts, convert relationship difficulties into growth catalysts by viewing disagreements as opportunities to understand different perspectives, using communication breakdowns to develop clearer expression and listening skills, treating relationship patterns as mirrors revealing your own growth areas, seeing separation or loss as openings for self-discovery and renewal. The obstacle of conflict contains the opportunity to develop deeper understanding and more authentic connection. Advanced practice, strategic obstacle analysis. The Stoics developed systematic approaches to finding opportunity in obstacles. One method, which modern readers might call strategic obstacle analysis, involves 3 steps. Obstacle deconstruction. Break down complex challenges into component parts. Many seemingly insurmountable problems contain smaller, manageable elements that can be addressed individually. Perspective shifting. Deliberately examine the obstacle from multiple angles, as a teacher, as a test, as a story you'll tell later, as trivial from a cosmic perspective, or as an opportunity for a specific virtue. Advantage identification. Systematically ask, what unique advantages might this particular obstacle create? What doors might it open that success would have kept closed? What strengths might it develop that comfort never could? Practice this analysis with both minor annoyances and significant challenges, developing the mental habit of finding opportunity regardless of the obstacle scale. Daily implementation strategies. Morning obstacle anticipation. Begin each day by identifying likely obstacles you may face. For each one, specifically name the opportunity it might contain and the quality it might develop in you. Obstacle reframing. When encountering unexpected challenges, pause briefly and explicitly reframe the situation. This is not merely a problem. It's also an opportunity to complete the sentence concretely before proceeding. Success through adversity journal. Maintain a record of instances where obstacles ultimately led to unexpected benefits, skills developed, connections made, insights gained, or directions changed for the better. Evening opportunity review. Before sleep, identify one obstacle from the day and the specific opportunity it provided, whether you recognized it in the moment or only in retrospect. By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics considered practical wisdom, the ability to transform circumstances through perception and creative response, finding advantage where others see only disadvantage. Affirmation 7. I need very little to be content. It is not the man who is too little who is poor, but the one who hankers after more. Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. Philosophical depth. The Stoic perspective on contentment challenges our consumer culture at its foundation. While modern economics assumes unlimited wants meeting scarce resources, the Stoics proposed the opposite formula. Limit your desires to match what nature genuinely requires. This principle stems from their understanding of human nature and happiness. The Stoics recognize that desire operates on a hedonic treadmill, each satisfaction quickly normalized, creating new desires in an endless cycle. True contentment, therefore, comes not from fulfilling every desire, but from cultivating appropriate desires aligned with nature's requirements. The Stoics distinguished between 3 categories of desires. This practice doesn't aim at nihilism or despair, but at their opposites. Profound appreciation for life and liberation from trivial concerns that waste our limited time. Psychological benefits. Contemporary research confirms several benefits of mortality awareness when approached constructively. Terror management theory. Research shows that constructive mortality awareness can lead to greater appreciation of life, stronger relationships, and alignment with deeper values. Mortality mindfulness. Studies indicate that healthcare workers who maintain healthy awareness of death often report greater meaning in their work and more authentic connections with patients. Near-death experience research. People who survive close encounters with death frequently report positive life transformations, including greater appreciation for relationships and less materialism. Regret minimization. Research on end-of-life regrets consistently shows that people rarely regret working less or accumulating fewer possessions, but frequently regret not spending more time with loved ones or not living more authentically. By maintaining gentle awareness of mortality, we can make choices aligned with what will matter when we look back on our lives, rather than what seems urgent in the moment. Practical applications across life domains. In daily decision-making, apply mortality awareness to everyday choices by using the question, will this matter when I'm dying, as a filter for decisions large and small. Prioritizing activities that create meaningful memories over those that merely fill time. Resolving conflicts with the perspective that this interaction could be your last with this person. Beginning important projects now rather than waiting for perfect conditions. Small daily choices, viewed through the lens of finitude, take on appropriate significance. In legacy consideration, bring mortality awareness to considerations of lasting impact by identifying what wisdom, values, or resources you wish to transmit to future generations. Creating tangible expressions of your unique gifts and perspective. Mentoring others in areas where you've gained valuable experience. Contributing to causes that will continue beyond your individual life. The Stoics would remind us that we live on primarily through our influence on others and the values we embody. In relationship priorities, use mortality awareness to transform relationships by expressing appreciation and affection rather than assuming unlimited future opportunities. Resolving grievances rather than maintaining grudges that may never find resolution. Being fully present during time with loved ones, recognizing its finite nature. Creating meaningful rituals and experiences that build lasting memories. Awareness that relationships are temporary makes them more precious rather than less significant. Advanced practice. Constructive mortality meditations. The Stoics develop specific contemplative exercises around mortality that can be adapted for modern practice. Morning mortality reflection. Begin each day with the thought, I may not live to see evening. This isn't to induce anxiety, but to approach the day with appropriate seriousness and presence. Evening life review. Before sleep, imagine this day was your last. Would you be satisfied with how you lived it? What would you wish you had done differently? This creates guidance for tomorrow. Funerary imagination. Periodically imagine your own funeral or memorial service. What would you want people to truthfully say about you? Are you living in alignment with these aspirations? Deathbed perspective. When facing important decisions, ask, from my deathbed, what choice would I wish I had made? This cuts through immediate concerns to reveal deeper values. These practices aren't meant to be depressing but liberating, removing the veils of distraction and convention to reveal what truly matters. Daily implementation strategies. Morning perspective setting. Begin each day by acknowledging its finite nature. This day is a gift that will never return. How will I use these unrepeatable hours? Let this frame your priorities. Midday mortality check. At midday, briefly pause to ask, if I learned I would die tomorrow, would I be spending today differently? Use this reflection to make mid-course adjustments as needed. Appreciation through impermanence. Throughout the day, enhance appreciation of ordinary experiences by noting, this moment too is passing and will never return exactly this way. This perspective transforms routine experiences into precious ones. Evening life satisfaction. Before sleep, ask yourself, if today were my last day, would I be at peace with how I lived it? Note both satisfactions and areas for adjustment tomorrow. By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics considered timely wisdom, the ability to value each moment appropriately and live deliberately rather than postponing authentic life indefinitely. Affirmation 9. I will practice gratitude for what I have. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he is not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus fragments. Philosophical depth. Gratitude stands at the intersection of Stoic emotional practice and their cosmic perspective. Far from being merely a pleasant sentiment, gratitude represented for the Stoics a rational recognition of reality and an antidote to the mind's tendency toward dissatisfaction. This practice emerges from several Stoic insights. Cosmic perspective. The Stoics recognize that everything we possess, from material goods to relationships to life itself, comes to us temporarily within the larger flow of nature. Gratitude acknowledges this truth rather than claiming permanent ownership. Hedonic adaptation. The Stoics understood what modern psychologists call hedonic adaptation, our tendency to quickly normalize positive circumstances and focus on what we lack. Gratitude practice deliberately counteracts this tendency. Preferred indifference. The Stoics classified external goods like health, wealth, and reputation as preferred indifference, naturally desirable, but not essential for virtue or happiness. Gratitude appropriately appreciates these goods without becoming dependent on them. View from negation. By mentally rehearsing the absence of goods we normally take for granted, we renew appreciation for their presence, a practice the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, when applied to imagining future losses. This multidimensional practice transforms our relationship with ordinary experience, revealing abundance where we might otherwise perceive scarcity or entitlement. Psychological benefits. Contemporary research confirms numerous benefits of regular gratitude practice. Hedonic well-being. Studies consistently show that gratitude interventions increase positive emotions and life satisfaction while reducing negative emotions. Physical health. Research links gratitude practice to improved sleep quality, reduced blood pressure, stronger immune function, and fewer physical symptoms. Psychological resilience. Grateful people demonstrate greater ability to find benefits in adversity and recover more quickly from traumatic experiences. Relationship quality. Expressions of gratitude strengthen social bonds, increase relationship satisfaction, and promote pro-social behavior. By practicing gratitude consistently, we develop what psychologists call abundance mindset, the ability to recognize and appreciate positive aspects of experience even in challenging circumstances. By practicing gratitude consistently, we develop what psychologists call abundance mindset, the ability to recognize and appreciate positive aspects of experience even in challenging circumstances. Practical applications across life domains. In material possessions, apply gratitude practice to material goods by periodically considering the complex systems and countless people who contributed to everyday objects, imagining life without basic conveniences we normally take for granted, practicing proper care and maintenance of possessions as expressions of appreciation, considering the historical luxury of items considered basic necessities today. When using even simple objects, occasionally pause to acknowledge this ordinary item would have been treasure to most humans throughout history. In relationships, bring gratitude perspective to personal connections by regularly expressing specific appreciation for others' qualities and contributions, imagining life without key relationships to renew awareness of their value, focusing on others' positive attributes rather than dwelling on irritations, acknowledging the gift of others' time and attention in a distracted world. The Stoics would remind us that no relationship is guaranteed or permanent. All are gifts to be appreciated while present. In health and ability, practice gratitude for physical capacities by periodically focusing attention on bodily functions we normally ignore until they malfunction, appreciating specific abilities, seeing, hearing, walking, grasping, that enable daily activities, considering how health challenges experienced by others would affect your life, using physical limitations as opportunities to appreciate capacities that remain, even in illness or disability. The Stoic practice identifies remaining functions for gratitude rather than focusing exclusively on what has been lost. Advanced practice, systematic gratitude cultivation. The Stoics develop specific practices to strengthen gratitude as a mental habit. Negative visualization. Regularly imagine losing valued possessions, relationships, abilities, or circumstances. This exercise isn't meant to induce anxiety, but to dissolve complacency and renew appreciation when you return to reality. Comparative perspective. Consider your circumstances against historical or global baselines rather than local social comparisons. This reveals the extraordinary privilege in what we consider ordinary modern life. Cosmic gifting. View everything, from sunlight to friendship to challenges, as gifts from the cosmic perspective. Even difficulties can be received with a certain gratitude for their role in developing character. Sufficiency recognition. Regularly identify the enough point in various life domains, the level at which additional quantities no longer meaningfully increase well-being, and appreciate when you have reached or exceeded it. These practices transform gratitude from occasional sentiment to consistent perspective, fundamentally altering how we experience ordinary life. Daily implementation strategies. Morning gratitude orientation. Begin each day by identifying 3 specific things you're grateful for, preferably different from previous days, to prevent automaticity. Include ordinary aspects of life normally taken for granted. Gratitude triggers. Link gratitude practice to regular activities, turning on lights, using water, eating food, as reminders to briefly acknowledge these everyday benefits. Appreciation pauses. Several times daily, pause for 10 to 20 seconds to fully appreciate something present in your immediate experience, whether physical comfort, natural beauty, or human connection. Evening gratitude reflection. Before sleep, identify 3 positive aspects of the day that might have gone unnoticed or unappreciated without deliberate attention. By consistently practicing this affirmation, you develop what the Stoics considered one of life's highest arts: the ability to find joy and sufficiency in whatever circumstances you encounter, transforming ordinary experience into recognized abundance. Integrating the 9 affirmations. Creating your Stoic practice. While understanding these affirmations intellectually is valuable, their transformative power comes through consistent implementation. The Stoics themselves emphasized that philosophy must be practiced, not merely discussed. As Epictetus admonished his students, if you didn't learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, what did you learn them for? The following framework provides a comprehensive approach to integrating all 9 affirmations into daily life, creating a modern Stoic practice adapted to contemporary circumstances. Creating a daily Stoic routine. Morning practice, 15 to 20 minutes. Mindful awakening, 2 to 3 minutes. Begin by bringing awareness to your body and breath as you wake. Before engaging with devices or daily concerns, set an intention to practice Stoic principles throughout the day. Philosophical priming, 5 to 7 minutes. Read a short passage from Stoic texts or contemporary interpretations. Consider keeping a collection of quotes related to the 9 affirmations for this purpose. Affirmation review, 3 to 5 minutes. Briefly reflect on each of the 9 affirmations, paying particular attention to those most relevant to anticipated challenges. For the affirmations most needed today, consider specific applications to likely situations. Preparatory visualization, 3 to 5 minutes. Mentally rehearse responding to potential challenges with Stoic wisdom, maintaining focus on what you can control, finding opportunity in obstacles, acting with virtue regardless of others' behavior. Day planning with Stoic perspective, 2 to 3 minutes. Review your schedule and priorities through the lens of Stoic values. Are you allocating time according to what truly matters given life's brevity? Are you prepared to find value even in today's difficulties? Throughout the day, transitional moments. Use natural transitions between activities as opportunities to reset your Stoic perspective. Before entering new environments or beginning new tasks, take 3 conscious breaths and mentally recall the affirmation most needed for that context. Stoic response protocol. When facing challenges, implement a consistent response sequence. Pause to create space between stimulus and response. Identify which Stoic principle applies to the situation. Apply that principle through specific thought or action. Notice the results of this application. Micro-practices. Incorporate brief Stoic exercises throughout your day. Practice present moment awareness during routine activities. Briefly contemplate the impermanence of pleasant experiences to enhance appreciation. View minor irritations as training opportunities for virtue. Notice moments of connection to larger community or cosmos. Evening practice, 10 to 15 minutes. Philosophical review, 5 to 7 minutes. Examine your day through the lens of Stoic principles. Where did you successfully apply the affirmations? Where did you struggle? What patterns do you notice in your responses to challenges? Written reflection, 3 to 5 minutes. Briefly journal about specific instances where Stoic philosophy helped you navigate challenges effectively, or where you wish you had applied it better. This written record helps track progress over time. Preparatory gratitude, 2 to 3 minutes. End your day by acknowledging specific gifts received, from small pleasures to significant relationships to challenges that strengthen you. Recognize that none of these is guaranteed tomorrow. Weekly practices for deeper integration. In addition to daily routines, certain practices benefit from weekly engagement. 1. Philosophical study, 30 to 60 minutes weekly. Dedicate time to deeper study of Stoic texts or contemporary interpretations. This might include reading original works by Seneca, Epictetus, or Marcus Aurelius, exploring modern applications through books on practical Stoicism, listening to podcasts or lectures that expand your understanding. This intellectual foundation supports and enriches daily practice. 2. Progress review, 20 to 30 minutes weekly. Set aside time to assess your development with each of the 9 affirmations. Which principles have you integrated most successfully? Where do you continue to struggle? What patterns do you notice in situations where your practice breaks down? What specific adjustments might strengthen your practice next week? This structured reflection prevents practice from becoming mechanical or stagnant. 3. Voluntary discomfort practice, variable duration. Following the Stoic tradition of voluntary hardship, periodically engage in practices that stretch your comfort zone. Simplicity experiments, temporarily living with fewer conveniences. Fasting practices, abstaining from food, media, or other regular pleasures. Comfort challenges, cold exposure, physical exertion, public speaking. These experiences build resilience and reduce dependency on external comforts. 4. Community engagement as available. While Stoic practice can be entirely individual, connecting with others enhances motivation and perspective. Participate in online forums discussing practical philosophy. Join local philosophy groups or Stoic meetups if available. Share insights with interested friends or family members. Consider starting a Stoic discussion group. The dialogical nature of philosophy helps refine understanding and application. Seasonal practices for philosophical deepening. Certain Stoic practices benefit from extended engagement at regular intervals. 1 quarterly retreat day. Dedicate 1 day every 3 months to intensive Stoic practice. Extended meditation on mortality and values. Deeper study of philosophical texts. Comprehensive life review through Stoic lens. Refinement of personal philosophical principles. This day provides perspective that daily practice sometimes misses. 2. Annual philosophy audit. Once yearly, conduct a comprehensive review of your philosophical development. How has your understanding of Stoicism evolved? Where have you made significant progress in application? What recurring challenges suggest areas for focused attention? How might you deepen your practice in the coming year? This periodic assessment prevents complacency and ensures continued growth. Overcoming common obstacles to consistent practice. Even with the best intentions, maintaining philosophical practice faces challenges. The following strategies address common obstacles. 1. Practice forgetting. Challenge. Despite good intentions, you forget to apply Stoic principles in daily life. Solutions. Use environmental triggers. Place visual reminders in your physical space or set digital prompts. Create implementation intentions. Specific if-then plans for applying principles in anticipated situations. Practice mental rehearsal of challenging scenarios during morning preparation. Begin with 1 principle at a time until application becomes more automatic. 2. Emotional overwhelm. Challenge. In intense emotional situations, philosophical perspective seems inaccessible. Solutions. Start practice with minor irritations before attempting application in highly charged situations. Develop a physical anchor, like touching a specific spot on your hand, that triggers philosophical perspective. Practice emotion regulation techniques that create space between stimulus and response. Remember that progress is gradual. Count partial application as success. 3. Social environment resistance. Challenge. Friends, family, or colleagues misunderstand your philosophical practice or unintentionally undermine it. Solutions: focus on practicing principles rather than discussing them until results become evident. Frame your practice in terms of personal development rather than philosophical terminology. Connect with like-minded individuals through online communities or local groups. Remember that the Stoics emphasized action over words. Let your behavior demonstrate philosophy's value. 4. Progress plateaus. Challenge: after initial improvement, you experience periods where growth seems to stall. Solutions: recognize that progress is rarely linear. Plateaus and even temporary regression are normal. Introduce new challenges that stretch your current capacity for philosophical application. Return to foundational texts for renewed inspiration and insight. Consider how you might apply familiar principles to new domains of life. 5. Perfectionism. Challenge: you become discouraged when your practice falls short of ideal Stoic responses. Solutions: remember that even the ancient Stoics acknowledged they were making progress, rather than perfect sages. Focus on improvement rather than perfection. Celebrate small victories and learn from lapses. Practice self-compassion when you fall short, recognizing this as part of the human condition. View setbacks as valuable feedback rather than failures. The lifelong path of philosophical progress. As you integrate these 9 affirmations into daily life, remember that Stoicism is not about achieving a final state of perfection, but about continuous progress toward wisdom. As Seneca humbly acknowledged, "I am not a wise man, and I never will be. I am making progress and measuring myself against my faults." The true measure of success in Stoic practice is not whether you perfectly embody these principles at all times. No one does. But whether you return to them after inevitable lapses, continuing the daily work of aligning your life with wisdom. The ancient Stoics spoke of the prokopton, the person making progress, as engaged in life's most worthy endeavor. Through consistent practice of these 9 affirmations, you join this timeless tradition of those seeking to live with greater wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation amidst life's inevitable challenges. Each day offers new opportunities to practice. Each setback provides valuable feedback, and each small victory builds the character that the Stoics prized above all external achievements. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, it is possible to begin living again, see things anew, as you once did. That is how to restart life. May these 9 Stoic affirmations serve as faithful companions on your philosophical journey, helping you navigate life's complexities with greater wisdom, resilience, and inner peace. Today and every day. Appendix A. Stoic exercises for daily practice. The following exercises provide concrete methods for implementing the 9 affirmations in everyday life. Each exercise develops specific aspects of Stoic wisdom and can be incorporated into your daily routine. 1. The morning preparation, premeditatio. Purpose: to establish philosophical perspective before daily activities begin. Practice: upon waking, before engaging with devices or responsibilities, sit quietly for 5 to 10 minutes. Review potential challenges of the coming day. Identify which Stoic principles will be most needed. Visualize yourself responding with wisdom to anticipated difficulties. Set intention to maintain philosophical perspective throughout the day. Connection to affirmations. This practice reinforces all 9 affirmations by establishing their relevance to specific daily circumstances. 2. Cognitive distancing, fantasia cataleptic. Purpose: to create space between initial impressions and judgments. Practice: when encountering a triggering situation, pause and label your immediate impression. I have the impression that this person is disrespecting me, rather than this person is disrespecting me. Ask, is this impression completely accurate? What might I be missing? Consider alternative interpretations before forming a judgment. Choose a response based on Stoic principles rather than automatic reaction. Connection to affirmations. This practice directly implements the first affirmation, distinguishing what we can control, by separating objective events from subjective interpretations. 3. Present moment anchoring. Purpose: to develop capacity for full engagement with the present. Practice several times daily, Interrupt automatic patterns by bringing full attention to physical sensations, feet on ground, breath, posture, sensory details of your environment, the specific task you're performing. When mind wanders to past or future, gently redirect to present experience. Practice this especially during routine activities normally done on autopilot. Connection to affirmations. This exercise embodies the second affirmation by training the capacity to fully inhabit the present moment. 4. Voluntary discomfort practice. Purpose. To reduce fear of discomfort and build confidence in ability to thrive under various conditions. Practice. Regularly introduce mild discomfort into your routine. Cold showers or outdoor exposure. Fasting for defined periods. Physical exertion beyond normal limits. Temporary abstention from habitual comforts. During these experiences, observe sensations without judgment. Notice the difference between discomfort and harm. Recognize adaptation that occurs with continued exposure. Connection to affirmations. This practice directly implements the third affirmation by transforming discomfort from threat to growth opportunity. Contemporary books on practical Stoicism. Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, The Daily Stoic, a year of daily Stoic meditations with contemporary commentary, offering structured practice for beginners. William B. Irvine, A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy, an accessible introduction to adapting Stoic practices for modern life, with particular emphasis on negative visualization and trichotomy of control. Donald Robertson, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, explores Stoic principles through the life of Marcus Aurelius, connecting ancient philosophy with modern cognitive behavioral techniques. Massimo Pigliucci, How to Be a Stoic, a philosopher's perspective on applying Stoic ethics to contemporary challenges, structured as a dialogue with Epictetus. Sharon Labelle, The Art of Living, a modern interpretation of Epictetus focused on practical application rather than academic analysis. Academic Works on Stoicism. Pierre Haddad, Philosophy as a Way of Life, explores ancient philosophical practices as spiritual exercises rather than merely intellectual systems. A. Long, Epictetus, A Stoic and Socratic Guide to Life, a detailed analysis of Epictetus's philosophical system and its practical applications. John Sellers, Stoicism, a comprehensive overview of Stoic philosophy in its historical context, covering physics and logic as well as ethics. Lawrence Seebecker, A New Stoicism, a systematic reconstruction of Stoic ethics in light of modern science and philosophy. Martha Nussbaum, The Therapy of Desire, examines Hellenistic ethical philosophies, including Stoicism, as therapies for emotional distress. Online resources for ongoing practice. The Daily Stoic, dailystoic.com, website and podcast offering contemporary applications of Stoic principles. Modern Stoicism, modernstoicism.com, organization that runs Stoic Week and Stoicon, with free courses and resources. r/Stoicism, reddit.com/r/Stoicism, Reddit community with discussions, resources, and support for practicing Stoics. Stoicism subreddit FAQ, comprehensive introduction to key concepts for beginners. Existential Comics, existentialcomics.com, philosophical comics that often feature Stoic thinkers, making complex ideas accessible through humor. By engaging with these resources while practicing the 9 daily affirmations, you'll develop both theoretical understanding and practical wisdom, the twin pillars of a philosophical life well lived according to the Stoic tradition.